My name is Leah Sterling, and 8 months ago, I was left with a piece of property my family deemed worthless. A dilapidated barn and a rocky, unusable hillside. My stepmother and step-siblings took the entire multi-million-dollar estate, the vintage cars, and the stock portfolio, laughing as I signed the deed for the dump plot. Today, that dump has yielded a resource so rare and valuable that a major tech corporation just paid me $50 million for the mining rights. The contract was signed live on financial news, just moments before my step-siblings' over-leveraged villa went up for public auction. My father, Robert Sterling, was a man of old wealth and quiet taste. He built his fortune in industrial real estate, preferring physical, tangible assets over flash and transient investments. Our family estate, the sprawling Beaumont Villa, was a masterpiece of classic Italianate design, complete with imported marble and formal gardens. Its true unrecorded value, however, lay in the land it occupied, a fact he often spoke about vaguely, hinting at hidden potential and rare mineral formations. My relationship with my father was built on respect and shared ambition. He appreciated my quiet competence. But after he married Vivian, my entire world shifted. Vivian, along with her two children from a previous marriage, Marcus and Chloe, were aggressive, modern-day opportunists obsessed with visible status. They saw my father's quiet wealth as an endless fountain for leased sports cars, annual membership fees to exclusive clubs, and extravagant social spending that quickly depleted his liquid reserves. I watched in silence as they systematically isolated him, their greed becoming more pronounced as his health began to fail, accelerating the draining of his accounts through elaborate gifts and fictitious investment opportunities. The atmosphere in the villa went from elegant to intensely materialistic. The final betrayal came shortly after his passing. The will, heavily influenced by Vivian in his last confused months, was read in the mahogany-paneled library. The lawyer, a slick man hired specifically by Vivian, read the allocations with a barely concealed smirk, pausing dramatically for maximum effect. Vivian received the bulk of the liquid assets, the significant stock portfolio, and all of my father's precious art collection. Marcus and Chloe were granted the Beaumont Villa itself, a trophy property, along with all its priceless contents, including the coveted vintage car collection, which Chloe immediately planned to sell for cash. When the lawyer finally got to my name, he cleared his throat for effect, as if delivering a final punchline. My inheritance was defined as Parcel B, the old homestead, an isolated 2-acre plot housing a collapsing barn and a rocky, unkempt hillside deemed unusable for development due to poor soil quality and challenging elevation. Marcus erupted in laughter, his cruelty sharp and unrestrained. "The barn, perfect for her," he sneered. "It's exactly where the horses used to sleep, a fitting place for someone who doesn't understand assets or the value of a proper address." Vivian smiled, a cold, triumphant smile, insisting I had received exactly what I deserved for my lack of social contribution and my failure to embrace their superficial world. The humiliation was complete when I was forced to sign the deed for Parcel B. I sat at the estate's massive dining table, the entire family watching with smug satisfaction as I accepted the worthless land. They truly believed they had left me with nothing, banished to a forgotten corner of my own past, while they began planning their lavish renovations and social engagements, funded by my father's life savings. They failed to realize that the Parcel B deed was the only thing they hadn't actually wanted, and therefore, the only asset they hadn't thoroughly investigated. Have you ever been forced to accept a profound injustice with a quiet smile, knowing the entire time that your enemies are entirely underestimating your resolve? That feeling of having secret knowledge, of knowing you hold the real leverage, is the most powerful catalyst for change. Tell me your experience in the comments. I left the villa that day with a U-Haul trailer, carrying only the few personal items I owned, and the deed to the despised Parcel B. My struggle began immediately in that dilapidated barn, which I temporarily converted into a habitable, though Spartan, living space. The nights were filled with self-doubt and the biting cold of the uninsulated structure, and the persistent dampness became my constant companion. I lived on instant meals and the meager savings I had set aside from my previous modest job. But the memory of my father's words kept me focused. He had often taken me for walks on that rocky hillside, pointing out the unusual silvery streaks in the dense, dark shale rock. He used to say, "Leah, remember this land. The greatest value is always what you cannot see on the surface. It's what others discard."
Don't forget to subscribe to this channel. Turn on bell notification to stay updated for more revenge stories.
While the Beaumonts were busy arguing over who would pay the soaring maintenance fees and crippling property taxes on the massive villa, and failing miserably to secure tenants for the rental wings, I was conducting discreet, purposeful research. I pored through my father's old industrial geological surveys and cryptic property maps, spending hours cross-referencing public land records and university geological databases. I found handwritten notes about unique electromagnetic signatures and deep silicate deposits. I learned advanced concepts in petrology and geochemistry, becoming fluent in the language of mineral deposits. The surveys were cryptic, but the notes my father left were the real key. Small, deliberate marks referencing specific historical mining patents he had quietly acquired over the decades, patents that proved the legal viability of extraction on Parcel B. This wasn't just raw land, it was a primed financial instrument waiting for activation. The turning point was the geologist. I hired Dr. Ethan Kenji, a retired surveyor known for his meticulous discretion, paying his substantial fee with the last of my savings, a true financial gamble. I didn't tell him what I was looking for, only that I needed a high-resolution survey of the subsurface strata, focusing specifically on the unusual geology of the ridgeline. He spent a laborious week on the property, using advanced sonic drilling and spectral testing. When he finally called me back to the barn, his voice was tight with disbelief and shock. He showed me the core samples. The useless dirt was sitting directly atop one of the highest-grade deposits of lithium silicate ever found in that region, a critical resource for the battery technology, renewable energy storage, and electric vehicle industries. The unique geology my father had hinted at was not a sentimental memory. It was a carefully guarded secret, a blueprint for a staggering fortune. The moment I held that shimmering core sample, the fear vanished, replaced by the profound, calm certainty of absolute control. I was sitting on capital worth far more than the entire liquid estate they had stolen. My plan was executed with cold financial strategy. I immediately engaged a specialized legal team and a high-profile mining consultant, establishing a holding company under an obscure name to manage the discovery and keep my personal involvement hidden. I initiated discussions with 3 major mining technology companies, Fidelity Materials, Nexus Energy, and Global Tech, letting them drive the price up through a tense, confidential bidding war that reached dizzying heights. While they fiercely competed for access to my land, the Beaumonts were beginning to unravel publicly. The villa's astronomical upkeep was crushing them, and Marcus's reckless spending on his failed startup had depleted their liquid funds entirely. They had maxed out every line of credit and were forced to list the Beaumont Villa for sale, the ultimate sign of their failure to manage real capital. I tracked their movements through public notices, knowing that the timing of my announcement had to be perfect to deliver maximum social impact. My leverage was absolute. I accepted the highest offer, $50 million cash, plus a generous future royalty percentage on all extracted materials, from the global conglomerate, Nexus Energy. The signing was scheduled for the following Friday morning, the exact time the Beaumont Villa was set to enter a public foreclosure auction. The public payback arrived with cinematic flair. I sat in a high-rise studio overlooking the city skyline, signing the definitive land rights agreement live on the National Business News Network. I was dressed in a powerful, crisp white suit, the picture of composed financial dominance and quiet confidence. The reporter, clearly stunned by the visibility and size of the $50 million check on the table, asked me about the sudden opportunity and how this came about. I smiled, signing the final page with a slow, deliberate flourish. "My father always taught me," I said, looking directly into the camera, "that true value is not what people see on the surface, the pretty house or the luxury car. Sometimes you have to look deeper, at the things people deem worthless." As I finished speaking, a breaking news banner flashed across the bottom of the screen. "Beaumont Villa, former home of Robert Sterling, enters public foreclosure auction today due to outstanding debts. The coincidence was noted by every major media outlet watching. It was a single, elegant news cycle that simultaneously crowned my financial victory and finalized my stepfamily's public ruin. Their greed had delivered the final blow, not me. The feeling of stepping away from that studio, $50 million richer, was not one of rage, but profound liberation. I did not bankrupt my stepfamily. They achieved that through their own reckless vanity, financial incompetence, and inability to manage real assets. I simply used the quiet, immense resource they discarded to fund my own future beyond their wildest comprehension. The irony is that the useless barn, the place they mocked as my only inheritance, was actually the foundation of a greater fortune than the entire Beaumont estate and everything they took. I am now building a new life, based not on inherited mansions but on undeniable earned capital and the quiet, strategic wisdom of my father. The lesson is simple. Never underestimate the value of the quiet gift, and always remember that a greedy hand will always miss the real gold if it is too busy grabbing for the diamonds. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel to enjoy more revenge and inspiring stories like this one. Where are you watching from? Drop your country in the comments and tell us what you think about this story.
Don't forget to subscribe to this channel. Turn on bell notification to stay updated for more revenge stories.